Hi, I'm Rich Newman. I'm really sorry that I can't be with you here in Toronto for this book launch, but circumstances kept me in New York this weekend. Hopefully, I'll be able to come to Toronto to do some readings and I'll be able to meet some of you. I'd really like that. I'm going to read for you a couple of poems from each of the sections of my book, Words for What Those Men Have Done. I'm going to read them straight without much discussion or explanation because I think they explain themselves. The first poem I'm going to read is You've Given Me a Place to Start. You've given me a place to start. I didn't think of Dante when I read your letter, but now it seems to me I'm sitting in the only circle of a very small hell. And if there is a God who condemned me to this, he also must be very small. When I was a boy, living in a city far from here, a cat whose name I can't remember would step in summer when the sun could rise no higher out onto the fire escape, sitting nearly shadowless for longer than my patience would let me watch. I want someone who's taken risks with love, who'd be as glad as I am to have these words you left me with. There is out there a heat that if we let it, will burn us clean. Clean. The first bus of the morning screams into gear, pulls slowly into traffic, a beast stretching itself to start the day. At the red light beneath my window, as a few raindrops hit the pane above the one I'm looking through, the driver turns his wipers on and the thick gray clouds spread out above this city release the dark and vengeful man they've been holding back since last night. He beats his fists against the glass, trembles my entire building when he screams. I want to feel his rage against my skin, so I head downstairs, my shorts torn without pockets, my shirt as well, in sandals that if I left right now to search for you would not survive to the end of my block. I walk the garden path till I'm standing at the south end, soaking wet and watching the water in the fountain dance its welcome to the water from the sky. The winter I was 17, Kristen pushed me down into this fountain's center, her face framed by trees I climbed when I was 8 and 9 and 10. Do you trust me? She asked. I nodded. She smiled, bent between my legs, and as she fumbled my zipper open, nothing as I hardened against her tongue came to me of the man pushing himself between my teeth, pouring into me out of who he was. And then who I was gathered itself to a point in me I kept for myself as long as I could, until, in answer to a summons I'd only half believed the world contained, it rose up out of me, white against the white flakes just starting to fill the quiet air around us. And I was, clean. The next poem I'm going to read is called You'd Better Finish Knitting, a ghazal. Ghazal is the Persian pronunciation of the word ghazal, which some people know this poetic form by. The form will become clear as I read. You'd better finish knitting, a ghazal. So I've decided to embrace his death the way before I did not embrace his death. I slammed the phone down on his mother's voice. I won't allow her to deface his death. One by one, the cars behind the hearse pull out, slow runners forced to race his death. Autumn leaves sweep the air above our heads. Few fall. That we're still here amazes death. They put their brother in the ground and leave. Revenge, his sister says, replaces death. Sun bleached on the sand, bones stripped of flesh. The tide rises recedes, displaces death. I've kissed a woman young enough to be my daughter, age receded. Face this, death. Snow accumulates and melts, gives way to each fruit in season. Come, taste this death. I'm never more alive than when I come. Only true surrender erases death. No other path will lead you to the end. Each step, if you are fearless, praises death. They'll tell you Richard's words besmirch this page, but Virgin White will not efface his death. An ars poetica of sorts. 1. You climbed naked in my dream onto the bed next to mine, your white skin pulsing light. Blonde hair falling almost to your wrists, belly a gentle bulge like the month's first slice of moon pale against the blue of this late afternoon sky. You lowered yourself onto the mattress as if to sleep. A friend I could be naked with. 2. I want my words to make the music water makes when the waves mount the morning and the mist weaves its way between the trees like a ribbon. I want truth cascading onto my cheeks like a lover's silken hair, flicking its tongue moist and swollen across my parched lips, guiding me so that once I'm in, I'll never need to be anywhere else. 3. On the newly leaved branch outside my window, a squirrel freezes, tensed for a leap that would take it through the glass if it could. My cat crouches, waiting. The last 2 poems I'm going to read are about my son. And this one is called My Son's Theology. Shahab asks if I believe in God. I tell him no. He doesn't ask me why. Instead, he tells me God is a dust speck floating on the wind, watching and waving, though we can't see him. And God created nothing, Shahab says, except himself, but he's not lonely and he's not sad. So we laugh, picturing God lounging poolside at some Hollywood movie star's mansion. We don't discuss God's gender. Cool drink in hand, when I ask, it's orange juice, of course. God's wearing precisely the gunmetal blue sunglasses Shahab convinced us just last week to buy him for the beach. He puts them on now. They're right next to his bed, leans back against the wall and waves. And if you do notice God is there, he says, sitting up straight, raising his eyebrows and smiling, don't be afraid to say hello or give him a high five. Then my son lifts God's beverage in the generous welcome he imagines divinity is and grins. Just make sure he raises his hand first. And the last poem I'm going to read, it's called My Son's Limericks. When my son was little, I wrote limericks for him, and these are the ones that I wrote, and I like sometimes to end a reading on this note. My Son's Limericks. 1. A boy who was wearing red pants went out to dig for some ants. He dug really deep to where the ants sleep. They woke up and crawled into his pants. 2. A boy who was eating his cookie in a house that was creaky and spooky heard a ghost cry out, "Boo!" He yelled, "Boo! To you too!" Then he finished his chocolate chip cookie. 3. A boy sitting up on a wall was bouncing his little green ball. He bounced it so high it reached up to the sky, and he said, "I wish I were that tall." 4. The boy in the tree looked down and said to himself with a frown, "I've climbed up this high, but I still don't know why." So he stayed till he knew, then climb down. Thank you so very much for giving your attention to these poems. As I said before, I hope I get a chance to meet some of you soon. Have a wonderful rest of the opening.